Welcome to Leafstyle. I am Juma, and this is Leafstyle, where education, culture, and cannabis collides. I would like to welcome my co-host this season, Dr. Safia Lynn, medical cannabis and emergency medicine physician, and the founder of Ask Dr. Lynn. Welcome, Safia.
Thank you. Pleasure to be here today. So excited. Thank you, Juma, our resident attorney, sociologist, and all-around global citizen. So great to work with you and share this platform. Let me introduce our guest today, DJ EFN. Really needs no introduction, to be honest with you. DJ, music producer, documentarian, marketing executive, founder of the #1 podcast in America, Drink Champs. Welcome to the show, EFN. Pleasure to have you.
Thank you. I don't know if we're the #1, but in music we're usually at #1.
You're #1 to us.
There we go. So let's jump right into it. EFN, how did your relationship with cannabis begin?
Oh man, it goes back. Let's take it back to high school. Let's take it back to the music culture at the time. You had Redman, Cypress Hill, Dr. Dre. And with, that was like a part of hip hop culture, sort of say, that's what the kids, we were heavily influenced by having, just like smoking blunts and smoking. That was like a part of it. Drinking and smoking, we're teenagers, we want to have fun. And that was a part of it. And it was in the music, but I didn't want to do it because of that. So while my friends were doing it because of that, I said, I'm not going to be influenced to do it. So it actually turned me off. So I waited till I was a little older. I was in my early 20s, and I said, now I'll do it, on my own terms. And I started to smoke, and I also started to serve. I used to sell, and it was a way to didn't come into the industry or the game with a lot of money. My family, we didn't have a lot of money. Single parent, my mother, working 40 hours. I'm a latchkey kid, so this was a way to get some income, at the time. And so that's how my relationship starts. I start to sell it, I start to smoke it. And then, at a point I realized it wasn't necessarily my thing for me. But I did find a respect for it and an understanding for it through my interaction with it at that time.
Nice. Well, I was like one of your friends. When that chronic dropped, it was over for me. I was an athlete before that, wanted to stick to my basketball. No drinking, no smoking, but college started and the chronic dropped. It was over.
That's it.
So talk to us a little bit. The success of Drink Champs, unbelievable. What are you guys in your 5th season now?
I think we're ending in March. It'll be 6 years.
Whoa, 6 years.
6 years of Drink Champs. It's hard to say seasons because when I think of seasons, I think of the TV part of it, which didn't start till the 2nd year of Drink Champs. So, we're an audio podcast, we're a television show on Revolt TV, and then we're also a digital, YouTube show that's a longer form of the show on YouTube. So yeah, we're going on 6 years in March. It'll be our final 6th year.
Big congrats with that. That's unbelievable. And you guys are archivists, right? You're really creating a catalog of history, which is unbelievable. So talk to us a little bit about growing into where you are today, Drink Champs. Everyone knows of it. Talk to us about the challenges there.
With Drink Champs specifically?
Yeah, specifically Drink Champs, just even getting that off the ground. Like a lot of people will see your success today, 6 years in, and see the unbelievable sort of range and all these great interviews. But talk to us a little bit about starting out, trying to get it, growing and trying to get your sea legs under you.
It's a long story of how, the idea and the inception of Drink Champs. So I'll try to cut it short into actually when we're launching. But when I finally am able to convince Nori to do a podcast, and let's better said, when he finally came around to doing it, we had to do a demo some pilot episodes for CBS Radio. That was our first distributor. And we did 2 episodes, and we shopped it to them. They loved it, and they're like, cool. And then what they were doing at the time is, which most podcast networks do, they sell ads against it, and you would take, you would share in the ad revenue. And we were like lightning in a bottle. We struck lightning in a bottle is what I say with Drink Champs. I think we came at the right time. The type of content we were doing was needed at the time. In hip hop, there was a couple of podcasts, that were there, but it was still something very new to hip hop. People associated podcasting with like this nerdy computer nerd thing, so when we came on the scene, it was like, boom, it was just something that people didn't know they needed. And it just took off, and it actually took off so quickly that the people at CBS Radio that were selling ads didn't know how to sell it. Because what happens is the dynamic of, you got to think of a sales team is they have to show the audience, and they didn't know what the audience was. They just knows that there was an audience there. So they couldn't tell the advertisers, well, look, we have this track record because boom, we just came out the gate. And then they have to charge by what the audience is at that moment. So they're like telling these advertisers who have never heard of us, this show called Drink Champs, where these people are drinking and, talking crazy on the show. And it's like, they have this huge audience, so you have to pay this top dollar for it. So it's just, they had a hard time selling us. And it took 6 months, we self-financed the show without getting a penny. And finally, around the 6-month mark, we got our first ad rev, check. And it was a pretty good check, considering we weren't getting anything to that point. And then, I was always from the beginning thinking of like, how could I knew that I wanted it to be more than just an audio podcast. I remember telling CBS from the beginning, the day I signed the contract, this is CBS Radio, but it's attached to CBS, the television network. Can we talk? Can we have a conversation about this being a television show? And they kind of laughed at me. They kind of like thought, oh, you're going a little too fast ahead of yourself. Let's see if this does any numbers. And so, so later we ended up doing a deal with them for their YouTube channel to publish the videos. And then I already had a relationship with Revolt TV doing my documentaries. And Nori, of course, had relationships there as well, directly to Puff and all that. So we ended up doing a small like run of shows there just to test it out on Revolt, and it was successful. And we've been on Revolt TV as a television show ever since. And then in turn did a deal with them to go through their YouTube channel. And we've been on several audio networks, where now we're with iHeart and Black Effect, which is Charlemagne the God's network through iHeartRadio, which they've been amazing. And here we are now, so, about to finish 6 years doing this.
You've leveraged that relationship with CBS into something greater. Do you feel that CBS was a good starting point for you, and then at one point when the show really took off and I made its identity, that they weren't really identifying with the brand as well, and that's how you pivoted over to other areas?
That's not exactly how it happened with them. Well, to the first point of what you said is CBS, we had a couple deals on the table to distribute us before CBS. There was some other smaller podcast networks that were entrenched in putting out hip hop related podcasts at the time, which, rest in peace, Combat Jack. It was his. I think Loudspeakers Network was the name of them. They wanted to do a deal with us, and they were trying for about a year to try to do it. And this is when Nori wasn't ready to do it. And so when CBS came, it came through a friend of mine, Godfrey, who was actually the guy who put the bug in my ear about podcasting. He has a podcast called Gamer Tag Radio. He did a deal with CBS. He said, hey, would you like me to make an introduction? When I told Nori CBS, he just loved the way it sounded. It just sounded so big. He's like, CBS? That sounds crazy. Like, let's just off of the name, he just thought of the, aesthetically how it sounded and looked, like that sounds crazy, us with CBS. And so that's how we got that far, that's where the attraction for Nori came. And then in terms of like when we left CBS, they started to have their own internal things going on, where CBS Radio parted from CBS the network. Then CBS Radio got bought by another company, so it was no longer going to be CBS at all. And at that moment, we wanted more out of it. And we said, this is what we want, and they weren't prepared to give us that. We started to learn more about the business. We got more savvy. and there's things called minimum guarantees in the business. So basically, you'll do a deal with a network that sells ads, but you tell them, you know what, I need assurances. I'm not just going to go out there and promote your network without assurances. I don't even know if you could sell ads. Well, so what I need is a contract that says I'm going to get this much money regardless of what you sell, and then it's your job to sell those ads and get that money back for yourself. And then once you pass that minimum guarantee, if they sell well, then you break, we share the revenue that's past that. So that's what we started to learn. That's what we started to go after. And then we would go through different companies. And what I started to notice is that some of these companies weren't good at selling ads, or maybe it's not them. Maybe our content wasn't easy to sell for ad revenue. And what would happen is they would do a deal with us for 1 year. And I felt that it was more of like leveraging our brand. They're like, we want to say that we had these guys, but they weren't prepared to go a second year and pay that amount of money that they promised. And we were jumping around. And now we're with iHeart and Black Effect, and they know what they're doing, and they're selling ads. So the relationship has been really good with them.
Right.
Mass Appeal as well, right?
We were with Mass Appeal before this iHeart deal. We were with Mass Appeal, which is Nas, and he had a deal with I can't think of the company right off the top, but he had another deal with a larger company that was getting into the podcast world, and I don't know all their business, but from what I heard is that they got into it. They thought, because everybody's like podcasting became like the new thing. And so some of these big media companies started getting into it, and they realized that it wasn't for them. And so they kind of opted out of the podcast world. So we didn't continue with them.
Right. Well, speak a little bit about sort of this distinction you're making, and also structurally, right? With the video, with Revolt, sort of the television aspect, but also the audio aspect and that distribution with iHeart and Black Effect. Can you talk about the distinction there and how those work differently?
Sure. I mean, a lot of people, they look at the television aspect and they think, ooh, that's it. You're a TV show, and each form of the show has its own, in my opinion, its own audience, its own life of its own revenue making model. So to me, so the television show is just 45 minutes to fit an hour of TV because of commercials. So you're just getting 45 minutes of the show. And that's just for people that want to watch it on television. But, everybody now watches YouTube on their television. So then there's the audience that just wants to see the full long form of the show, which is, 2 to 3 hours long. And they'll watch it on YouTube. And then you have the audio audience, which I think, we should never forget about, because that's, I feel like we started as a podcast. We're always going to be a podcast. And to me, a podcast equals audio form. And so that audience is separate, because those are the people that are, going to work, in their cars. They're the truck drivers. There's people that just like to hear things and imagine what it is versus watching it. Most of our loyal audio listeners will listen the week it comes out and then wait a week or two and then watch it to see maybe if it matches what they imagined, was going on. And so each of that has its own, like I said, revenue models and audiences. And when you put those audiences together, then we come up with our number of having, like 1 point something million, viewers and listeners a week that tune into the show.
Got it. A lot like music, right? The way people
right.
streaming in multiple platforms, you have to count all those numbers in the analytics.
Yep. Sorry, I feel like I lost you for a second here. Oh, there you go. Because I got a call that came into the... I'm back.
No problem. I was just talking about the difference in the analytics, and sounds very much like music, right? All the different streaming platforms, all the different... You have to account for all of that when you're going to set your advertising situation up, right?
Yeah, I mean, like everything now, like social media, everything, all the analytics are there, and it's a lot more transparent, and it's actually for the advertisers, those analytics is is the best thing that could have ever happened for advertisers, and especially in the podcast space. I don't know if you remember 5 years, 6 years back, Apple had adjusted their podcast analytics because there was this thing where it was showing that everybody had these millions and millions of listeners on their podcast. What it was is it was counting every time someone stopped and started again. And so they adjusted that, and all these people who, including us, who had millions and millions of downloads and listens, it got cut in half, or even more than that. So, but I think those analytics are important, that we get them right, because then advertisers can come in there and they know what they're gonna pay for what they get, and vice versa. You want everybody to be fairly compensated.
You spoke a little bit about sponsors and advertisers. Have you been approached by cannabis sponsors to be a part of the show? And is that legal in the space that you're in, since it's such a free content space?
The legalities I may not know all the way, to be honest with you, but I don't see it being illegal to speak on or have a brand placement on the show. I don't see where there's any legal problems there. And we have been approached. We ourselves are in the business. Nori has his own stuff, products in Colorado with Cherry, Colorado. We have Smoke Champs products in California. I'm coming out with a new line called Crazy Smokes in California as well. So we don't take on too much of the outsider stuff, because we have our own products that we don't want necessarily. I mean, it's not that they're to compete with, but it just doesn't make sense when we have our own products to promote.
Right. And is that part of your products that you're launching out in California? Is that part of the relationship with TransCanada and Lifted Farms?
Yes, it is. Yep, we're Lifted.
All right. So when are we going to expect to see that out there in California? And what exactly are you going to bring to the customer? So
I'm learning a lot about the industry through this relationship. And I'm learning a lot about the cultivation side and how long it takes. And then the process of, once the crop is ready, that it has to go through all the licensing and inspections that the state has to say that this is, a real cannabis product with a certain amount of THC that it needs to have, and so on and so forth. I'm learning all this. This is all new to me. And we've had actually crops that for whatever reason failed. So we're gonna come out with flower first. I'm gonna come out with the first my own flower that's coming out. Either the crop should be ready by the end of the year, so probably starting in the new year. And then we're trying to cultivate. There was this strain called Crippy in Miami, that was really, really popular in the early to mid 90s in Miami. It was like our own version of Chronic, before Chronic was real big, or around the same time. And so people that would come to Miami knew about Crippy. So we're actually we're growing that right now, and hopefully launching that sometime towards the end of next year or middle of next year.
Oh, that's great. Are you going to grow it here in Florida, or is that out in California as well?
Yeah, everything with Lifted, they're a California company, so everything's in California. I'm starting to look for things to do in Florida, being that that's where I'm at. But right now I'm concentrated between Smoke Champs, which I'm a part of, and Crazy Smokes with Lifted, which is all in California.
Perfect. That sounds great. And you bringing up Smoke Champs. Let's talk about that. Sort of the launch of Smoke Champs, the vision there. Obviously, the great success with Drink Champs. Talk to us about your vision with Smoke Champs.
So Smoke Champs, at the same time that I grabbed up the Drink Champs name and everything, before knowing what it was going to be, I also thought, well, if Drink Champs takes off, then Smoke Champs to me is inevitable of something to happen related. So I grabbed up Smoke Champs as well. My idea was for it to just be the product brand, and I wanted to just go after whoever and whatever entity was going to partner with us and bring us the most money for the product side of Smoke Champs. But then we always talked about doing a podcast for it, and originally it was going to be even us doing a separate podcast that was going to be Smoke Champs, but we don't have the bandwidth for us to do Drink Champs and Smoke Champs. So yeah, we looked at friends and family, and Nori's nephew, he wanted to get involved. We got other guys that have been rolling with Nori and since forever, since he was a kid, and old friends of his, which I've known Nori forever, so I've known those guys forever. And so it became a family affair, and We're like, yeah, you guys run with the Smoke Champs podcast brand, and you guys do that. It's separate from the branding, you know, the product line that we do, but you know, it's all one big family network thing that we're doing together.
No, that's great. That's great. Feeding off each other, and it's always great when you can do it with family.
Yep, absolutely.
So, talking about sort of your background with mixtapes and music production, do you see a lot of similarities from, you know, mixtapes trying to create that, letting people share their story and cultivating that, and also same with the podcast, people sharing their stories, and you guys do an incredible job of cultivating sort of the vibe and the direction of the show. Do you see similarities between the two?
In some ways I do. I feel like, you know, maybe now, you know, Drink Champs has gotten to a larger, you know, audience or whatnot, but I always think of us as like an underground, you know, thing, you know, like, even though maybe some people see us as a bigger thing than that, but, and you know, mixtapes to me is an underground thing, but it was always vital to the culture. Mixtapes were vital, and I feel like what we're doing with Drink Champs as a podcast is vital to the culture, and in that sense, I see the similarities, and you know, I can, in the way even also that we promote Drink Champs is the same way that I felt like, you know, I would promote a mixtape. All those similarities are there for sure.
Absolutely, absolutely. I see it. That's why, you know, I kind of wondered about that because of the storytelling and sort of you're creating a record for forever, you know, and that's great. So
right.
Let's talk about something. You have many properties, right? So you talk about unable to expand your bandwidth, but you're talking about Coming Home, your project there, Drink Champs, of course, Smoke Champs now, Fatherhood, all of these different sort of, you know, outlets, and you're building sort of your network yourself. Do you have any vision in the future to sort of maybe start your own network, own label?
Yes and no. I've managed artists. I've managed a lot of artists. I have my independent record label that I've had for years. My thing with that is just, I would love to do a network. I kind of look to like with Charlemagne, how we're on Black Effect now, and I think he did it perfectly. He aligned himself with a huge media corporation I don't know the inner workings of what happened. I'm just speculating that his network is well funded, well staffed, and the people in and around it know what they're doing. They're experts in the space, and what they're leaning on Charlemagne is to curate and bring the right talent that maybe is filling a void that iHeart couldn't do on their own. And so by doing that, he brings the talent, but then it's like, it's not just Charlemagne, it's iHeart as a machine that has everything you need to get things done the right way. That's the way I would like to do things, because as much as I say that I love being independent, I feel that is a way of being independent as well, though. You can align yourself with a corporation, but the way that you are successfully independent in that situation is when you already have established yourself as a success without them, so that when you make that deal with them, you're autonomous and you say what happens with that budget, and you're the one that dictates what happens, and you can get bigger budgets and just salaries and just everything. It's different when you come in kind of self-made versus coming in, you know, green, where that corporation can take advantage of you contractually and basically, without lack of better words, rape you, you know? Yeah. So that's what if I ever do that, it has to be like that, you know, because I want to properly finance things. I want to pay people what they deserve, and I want to give these shows or this talent the proper push to give them the best chances out there.
Absolutely. And trying to manage that balance. To hear you talk, though, this is the exact same language of music industry, right? You talk about
right.
Independent, the cash money, connecting with a distributor, a distribution system.
Universal.
You know, it's the exact same system, and it looks like Charlemagne with Black Effect has taken that model and just has duplicated into the podcasting space, which is incredible.
Yeah, I believe he has. Yep.
Yeah. So, EFN, what's next for you? Are you going to put on any other hats? You're juggling so many things. What's next? What can we expect?
I mean, I'm definitely getting into the NFT space. You know, I really, really want to learn more about that space, and I'm aligning myself with people who know the space and seeing what kind of cool things we can do in that space. You know, just brands. I'm doing products. I'm leveraging everything I'm doing. I'm definitely one of those people that, you know, wants to take advantage of the moment, knowing that things don't last forever. So, you know, if right now someone wants to do business because right now things are hot, then, you know, let's take advantage of that and do it, because tomorrow might be a different day. So, you know, I'm getting, you know, equity stakes in brands that I like, and you know, and getting, you know, doing partnerships and stuff like that. So I got my Michelada cup brand. I don't know if you guys seen that. I got a liquor brand called Colombian White. The NFTs I mentioned, and other brands that I'm looking at, and other small businesses. But right now, what I'm thinking of most of all is, how do I leverage everything going on right now to create these businesses that allow me to have more time with my family. And that is my new goal moving forward, because I have young children, and so I want to be more available to them.
We love that. We love that. Absolutely. I think that's everybody's goal, to be able to work from home and to work independently, and to be able to, you know, choose and refuse the opportunities that make sense for you
Right.
and your family, especially as we're all adult parents, you know? So we
Absolutely.
all understand that method and that logic for sure. What's your most memorable Drink Champs interview? For me, mine was Lamar Odom, I must say.
Really?
But I learned the most
Really?
from Cameron's interview. Yes, I learned the most from
Okay.
Cam's interview. Nas was great, but Lamar Odom was hilarious.
Really? So what was your favorite moment of that interview?
Oh my gosh. He had so many one-liners that was just like shock and awe with him. I felt like you guys really were able to get in and like really get the honest answers from him, which he felt so protected from speaking freely for so long, you know?
Yeah. We got a lot of heat for that episode.
Yes.
You know, because of him having drinks, and I think he smoked.
Yes, he did.
Yeah. So we did get a lot of heat, but he did open up, and it was really, it really was I thought it was a great episode. And, you know, it comes with the territory, Drink Champs, and there's sometimes we're going to catch heat. One of the things that I'm doing right now that I've told Black Effect, because at the end of the day, you know, I want us to be, you know, responsible to the audience, and I want them to understand that, you know, this is entertainment, and you know, I don't know, I just want the positive to outweigh the negative, you know. And so we're definitely aligning ourselves with some nonprofits that, you know, deal with alcohol and substance abuse.
Nice.
And so, you know, I'm trying to, you know, get involved and kind of balance out, you know, anything negative that comes out of Drink Champs. I just want our legacy not to be anything negative, and I want it to be all, you know, as positive as possible. You're always going to have a detractor out there, but
Yeah, definitely.
yeah, for sure. But my favorite episode, which is hard, I can't necessarily say that one is my favorite episode, because I feel like each one has something different, because each artist is, you know, they're a different person, and so they bring something different to the table. But I've always said that the 50 Cent episode was one of my favorites, because I had met 50 Cent before that, but I hadn't really interacted that much with him before that. And I didn't know what to expect from him in terms of him being on Drink Champs, because I knew that he didn't drink, and he actually drank on that episode because he's such a marketing genius, because he was promoting his vodka. And so he's like, well, if I'm going to promote my vodka on a show called Drink Champs, I better drink it too. And, you know, so he did. And he really had fun with the show, which is what I think sometimes people don't do with the show. Like, you got to come on there understanding that really it's a celebration of the culture, and we're celebrating and we're having fun, and we want it to be just as much as we want it to document the history of the culture of that artist. We want to have fun with that person. We want to have laughs, and we want to poke fun at things, and we can all poke fun at each other. And that's what, you know, and some people might come to the show a little guarded, and 50,
Right.
especially in that time frame when 50 came early on in the show, and he came ready to have fun, and it was really dope, and we had a really good time with him.
You don't smoke on the show.
I don't smoke, period.
You don't smoke, period. When you stopped in your 20s, you stopped completely, right?
Completely. Yeah. It just, I don't know. It wasn't for me. It just wasn't for me. I always say I'm going to be that old man in a rocking chair smoking again. And
Children
not
can
drinking
change
at all.
that. Children can change that.
You know, I have done edibles since in recent years, and that was a little wild.
Nice.
It was not like smoking at all.
Yeah, that's an interesting way to start back up, you know, because the doctor can talk more about that, but you can't really control it as much.
Get into it.
No, it's deceiving. First of all, because me and a friend, we went to Colorado, one of my homies, and we bought a chocolate bar, a soda, and a cookie, and we split it, all of that, thinking that it's not that much,
Like a
but we
snack.
had all of that,
You had a snack.
right?
All at once.
And then I remember my friend who doesn't smoke either. I remember him saying, "Oh, I don't feel anything," and I started to feel. I was like, "No, I'm feeling it." And then all of a sudden, we're walking in the street, and I see his head just shoot up. He looks up in the sky. And I'm like, "What's wrong with you?" He goes, "Oh, I feel it now." And it was a roller coaster from that point. I feel like the way that it works with the digestive system, like
Yes.
it's almost like it's like a popcorn, like boom, here, take that high, boom, take that, take that, and it comes. It's like time released, you know, and because it lasted forever.
It's so dependent on your body mass, the amount of fat that you retain, also how recently you ate or drank anything. You know, the digestive process is delayed if you recently had a meal and then you do edibles versus on an empty stomach. Like there's so many factors, the amount of milligrams, the style of sativa versus indica. There's so many things that play into it, and people are very deceived by edibles. So
And what about the altitude, Doc? What about the altitude? Because
Yeah, I
Heading
think that
out
has
to
something to do with it
Denver.
too.
Colorado is no joke. Every time I go skiing out there, I'm like, what is going on? You know, that's a head rush and a high in and of itself. So that coupled with alcohol, coupled with, you know, cannabis, you're on a whole nother planet.
Yeah, one of my other friends that does smoke, who was with us, he's like, "I'm never hanging with you guys again if you're doing edibles." He's like, he smoked and he said, "You ruined my high. Like, this is the worst experience."
oh,
I've ever
he's a
had."
smoker. He's a smoker.
He probably
He's a
babysat
smoker and
you guys.
smoked. Yeah, he had to babysit us. We went to a restaurant, we would Uber, we went to a ice cream. Like I remember we went all over the town. We went to a show. I was actually an artist. I went there because a group that I managed, a Mayday, which I don't know if you see the plaque behind me, this plaque right there. They were on tour and they were in Colorado, and so I went, and it was a wild trip. I really felt like I was tripping. So it was crazy.
Well, when you're
And
ready
not
to do
to-
anything in moderation, we'll guide you. We got your back.
Okay, yeah, I need some more guidance.
There we go. And I didn't get to say my favorite show, Sadat X.
Tell
Yeah,
us.
let's hear it.
Sadat X. I'm a big
Oh,
brand
man.
newbie, and Sadat was on one.
Woo, he was wild boy that day.
So I love that show and anything with Fat Joe, because I think Fat Joe is truly the best storyteller in the world.
He is.
and,
He's good.
you know, it's unbelievable. I love to just hear him talk and tell anything, you know?
The animation.
Yeah, he's good, and he's so charismatic too.
So animated. It brings life to the show, definitely.
Yeah.
We're
So
proud to
season
have you
4.
Which is
as
crazy
our-
because he was our first released episode,
Oh, I didn't know that.
and he's been on the show. I mean, I think he's the most. Him and Jadakiss have been on the show the most.
But you made a distinction there.
deserved.
I thought it was simply the first episode. You said first release. What's the first one that wasn't released?
Kenny Anderson was
Oh.
our first recorded episode, and that didn't come out till about 4 or 5 episodes, 6 episodes down when we started. But Fat Joe was our second episode recorded the next day, and the first released episode.
Got it.
I love
Makes sense. Makes sense. So season 4, our focus is free the culture. A man of the culture. Tell us what free the culture means to you.
Oh man, that means a lot of things to me. If you ask me, to me, free the culture is free the culture of corporate constraints. Free the culture to truly express itself freely, and and not allow itself to be dictated by what we sometimes think we're free, but social media structures, music industry structures, all these archaic corporate structures too, which have leaked into these newer things that we do with like social media and stuff like that. And I just feel like the culture has been hijacked by these entities. And that's why in my films, shameless plug, when I travel to these other countries that don't have these type of infrastructures, where they feel that they lack and they wish they had what we had, I see in them a freedom to express themselves that we don't have here, and I kind of envy that to a degree.
Great. Where to next for coming home? Where would you like to go to next?
Oh man, I'd like to go. On my list is I would love to go to. I was gonna say Cambodia, but I do want to go to Cambodia. But Mongolia, I would love to go to. I want to go anywhere and everywhere. Want to go to Dominican Republic. Want to go to Jamaica. We try to go to places that people in my crew are related to somehow. So one of my homies, Drain Flicks, he's our Drink Champs photographer, but he's from Crazy Hood Productions. He's Jamaican by way of England. I want to go to Jamaica to represent him. My other homie, Charlie, he's the one that had the edible trip with me. He's Brazilian. I want to go to Brazil to represent for him. I want to go back to Cuba and I want to go back to the countries we've been to with a full production, because we've done these completely guerrilla style, independent, and I feel like we could even do better if we are a little bit more well financed, which we're working on right now. We have currently partnered up with LL Cool J and Rock the Bells on the films, so that's pretty cool. So yeah.
That's great. We love it. Love to hear it. Hands in so many things. Dr. Lynn, any last words?
You shared it all. You left it all on the tape tonight. We appreciate you being our advisor. We appreciate your support. Definitely learned so much from this episode in terms of branding, in terms of how to build, and stay consistent and stay true to your vision for what you have for your corporation and for your entity. So we appreciate you, EFN. Thank you.
Absolutely. No, thank you guys. Thank you for having me.
Thank you.
Always a pleasure.
And that's Leafstyle. No longer a soap culture.
All right.
A Leafstyle.